Hey everybody, welcome back and thank you so much for being here. I feel like I'm on the 21st mile of a marathon. You know, we just passed episode 75, trying to get to 100. And I just feel like the road is getting difficult and arduous, but you know, send us some love by subscribing, send us some love by leaving a comment, by hitting the bell notification, send us some love by visiting us at Venmo and sending us some support at Venmo at DANCNG SOBR, DANCNG SOBR, just like the way I spell the podcast. So let us know that you're out there. Let us know that you're listening, and I appreciate you so much. Shout out to Picaresca Coffee Roasters because we got our last batch from them. This is our last batch that's coming from Picaresca. This is a medium light roast from Nicaragua. If you're interested, this is only going to be available at the Caminarte that's coming up on August 11th, I think is the date. So check it out. I want to give a big shout out, of course, to Espacio 1839 for being our studio host. They let us have our podcast in here at 1839 East 1st Street if you want to come down and visit them in person. If you want to see them online, they're at espacio1839.com. They have a lot of things for sale, including their beautiful new jackets that are a big hit, and T-shirts and books, and a lot of different little Chicano, Chicana, Latinx, Mexican trinkets. So, yeah, let's get into it. This week we have beautiful guest I'm so excited to have in the studio, Jose Lozano. Hey everybody, welcome back to the DANCNG SOBR podcast. And today we have in the studio, in the tiendita, the elusive
Okay.
Jose Lozano.
Yay.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure, absolute pleasure. You're somebody that I've followed for a long time. One of the first Chicano artists that I started to look into when I was learning about Chicano art, you know, as a 20-year-old back in the days. I'm now 50. And just a big fan and excited to have you here. And when I've mentioned to people that you were coming, they're like, "Oh, wow, that's good." Oh. So, people are excited to listen to your podcast. So,
que suave.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. On this show, we like to start with stories about where you were born and where you were raised. So, tell us something about little Jose Lozano.
I was born at USC Medical. My father was a musician. He played the saxophone. And he performed at the $1 Million Theater.
Oh, yeah.
And they used to live on Town Street, my mom would say. And so I was born here at USC, and then there was a divorce because she was 28 and he was 20. It was kind of immature for my mom. Yeah. My mom was already a señora by then. So then I grew up in Juárez. We went back and lived with my grandmother, who owned my grandfather's house. And then my aunts started disappearing, and they left their kids in the household. So it was like a little orphanage. It was a 3-room house, and my mom was the primary.
Wait, let's go back a little bit because there's a lot of questions already in just those few sentences.
There's a story.
I remember my daughter's great grandma used to tell stories about we used to go to the $1 Million, and it was Latino night, and they had a Desi Arnaz and Perez Prado. Yes. So those were the years that
the late 50s.
Yeah,
and he backed up.
It was huge
for Maria Victoria, for Livia Talamarque, for Pedro Infante, because my father was a primo musician. He played the saxophone, and he studied in red music.
Yeah.
I'm not a noisemaker. I make music. He wasn't no era de tamborazo. He was.
Oh wow.
And so my relationship with him is very distant. You know, he is my father, and I did get to have time with him. But there was no real connection, I don't think. He passed away during COVID, 2019. And I never had that movie moment, you're supposed to embrace and suddenly I never had that movie moment.
That's a lot of years now, though. I mean, you're talking about from when he was playing saxophone to
I would see him in Juárez when I go visit him because he
was in
Juárez.
Okay.
And I go visit him, and we spend time together. and he'd give me advice. But then years would pass before we saw each other again. So, and he had the same mannerisms that I use and the same kind of tone of voice. So I and I think he probably had the art thing going, the art gene. I probably inherited from him. So in my childhood in Juárez, and we lived actually a couple of blocks from him, but he was never around, which is kind of very peculiar. He would show up maybe once or in a while at 3 a.m, todo borracho, and he want to see us. So then he'd bring us out in our pajamas and put us on the windowsill, and he'd get todo slobbery and emotional. Yeah. And those are the moments that I remember him when I see him.
Wow.
But I'll never have an answer why.
Yeah.
So then my mother took.
It kind of just was the way that it was. Whatever his reason for leaving.
Yeah, he had another family también and other kids.
Their own reason for separating.
Yeah, and then he blamed people for the breakup, and I had no time for that. It wasn't my doing. So we grew up, and I can tell you my aunts, they went missing on us. My tia Nelly and my tia Maggie. One of them, I think, had a daughter in El Paso, and then she kind of gave it up for adoption. And then she left 3 kids with us, with my mom. And then she disappeared. And then my other aunt was
never to be seen again?
Well, we found her again in Fullerton.
Wow.
That's why I was raised in Fullerton.
Wow.
Because Mom was working here in LA with my tia Porfiria, who lived on Indiana, right there off of Gage, by South Hub Graphics, the old South Hub Graphics. And someone told her, we saw your sister, La Charra, that was her nickname, because she had big braids. She's tending bar at El Sombrero in Fullerton, this bar, And my mom said, I haven't seen that cabrona, and I have her kids. I don't believe you.
Oh, my God.
So then they took her, and there she was.
Wow.
Looking glamorous with her trenzas.
Yeah.
So then my mom said, I'm going to bring you your kids. No, ¿y tú qué? ¿Qué estás pensando, So then my mom, for some reason, decided to sell the house and then leave that money for the other kids that were left for them to live on. And she says, if I don't leave, I'm not going to have a chance to make it with my kids, it was 3 of us. So then she planned everything very systematically, and then before we knew it, we were here living in Los Angeles, in LA.
And how old were you by that time?
I was like 7 or 8.
Wow.
I was a little Mexicano.
Yeah, that's still little, yeah.
I was a little Mexicano, though, because I went to school in Mexico, in Juárez. So all that Mexicano culture kind of seeped into my little brain. And then she decided to move to Fullerton. It was, I went to school to Belvedere Elementary for like maybe a half a year. So that's why I have my Fullerton connection.
Okay.
Yeah. We work in a town called FTT, Fullerton Tokerstown. It was a little area where only Latinos lived back in the days. And then you can venture up in the hill because that's where the Gabachos lived up. Yeah. That was your territory. So I lived in this little very kind of
what years to what years?
This was 67, 68. I remember when Martin Luther King got assassinated. I had this real beautiful, very regal African-American teacher, Miss Jeffries. And I remember this African-American kid being very upset. And then she took us and set us under a tree to explain to us what had happened.
Wow.
And that was I was in 3rd grade. So I went to high school there, and I went to high school there, and that was my upbringing, pretty much. I went to college there.
Wait, let's go back a little bit.
Yeah.
When did you start picking up a pencil and drawing, and how did art come into your life?
I used to play act. My mother would give me her cardboard when she bought stockings. They would have this cardboard, that in the package, and that was my gift when I looked forward to it. And I made believe I was like painting. I never seen anybody.
It was like cardstock paper.
It was like good paper.
And it had a really nice smooth side on one side. Yeah, I remember that.
That was a treat for me too. Like, what am I going to draw on this thing now? And
that's funny.
And then that was my treat, was you bought stockings.
Las medias.
Las medias. And then teachers noticed Miss Jeffries, the lady that I was talking to you about. She would take me to classes to the YMCA in Fullerton, up the hill from where St. Jude is. Every Saturday, she picked me up for a summer. She did that and dropped me off at the YMCA, and there'd be like art studios where the kids got classes. And she went out of her way to take me there. You know, maybe she saw something in the. I think I did a project once where we had to handwrite our letter with tempera, and then you folded it, and then you made a bug out of it. Have you seen that?
Yeah. Like
and for some reason,
Rorschach kind of thing.
Yeah, and then you're supposed to like draw little legs and little bug eyes. I saw a seated genie with a turban. So then I asked her if I could do a genie instead of a bug, and then I showed her. I put ice in the genie, and the J formed the legs. You know how they have those puffy. So I think I saw visual connections to things, and it was like it just kind of it's still to this day. I'll see something and it'll spark something else for me to do something. I think it stems from way back then, that you have this visual thing in your brain that's what it is. So go with that. See what that does.
Es como una enfermedad.
It's like a little illness. Yes.
You have to get it out of the system, right?
Yeah. And then I remember as a kid in Juárez, everybody had like a place where they slept, because there was like not so many kids. Everybody se acomodaron todos. And then at dark, I would see figures from the kitchen. Really weird. I see figures dancing or beckoning me. And I told my mom once that she thought I was mental or something. Yeah. So they put me on this medicine, these yellow pills. They took me to El Doctor Esquivel. I remember his name.
Wow.
The first doctor that I've ever been through, because I was a nervous child. I saw figures behind the curtains in the kitchen, and that stopped. Yeah. I don't see.
That's interesting.
I don't see figures anymore.
You were not even a teenager yet.
No, I was a child. I was a chavalito.
And who knows what they gave you? You just know they were yellow pills.
What they were offering. And I think they came through in my drawings, those little
pills,
whatever they were.
The figures. Yeah.
They were como duendes.
Yeah.
Like little duendes. So then, all through school, junior high, I was the kid who drew. Oh, Jose Juárez. They would tell my brother, oh, he's the artist, the weirdo, the weird kid. Who's in the library all the time. That's your brother, huh? Yeah, that's my brother. So that was my...
I wonder what would have happened if they never gave you those pills and you stayed connected to those things.
I wonder if probably be institutionalized or something.
Well, no, it's not even that. A lot of times I wonder, like, if we have certain connections to, like, other realms, and then we get... because of the world that we live in, we get those things chopped off, and like, you can't live that way within this society, so let's get rid of it.
You're not supposed to go to that realm. You're supposed to keep it exist in reality.
Yeah, so
and not go.
Yeah, it's interesting. Pero so
and then at one time in college, I thought to be a good artist, one had to go mad, like Van Gogh.
Oh yeah.
So I thought, God damn it, why can't madness come?
Charles Bukowski.
So I can finally become a good artist. That's such a dumb thing.
Yeah, I think that was a Charles Bukowski quote too.
Yeah.
Some people never go mad. What truly horrible lives they must live.
Because you read it, you see it in the art books and in the movies. That made him a great artist. You chop off an ear, and then suddenly you have this magic in you. And I think that's a little dramatic. But then that's why artists get pegged loons.
Well, if another way to look at it is like when they go mad, it's not what makes them a better artist, but it's what pushes them to put work out, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have things in your head that you just have to release, right?
You're somehow possessed by it to express this thing that's going on in your head.
Yeah, because you have no other way to explain it sometimes. It's possible. Yeah.
And then, that's someone. It depends on your personality. If you're really obsessive about it.
Yeah.
You know, me. I mean, I sometimes I even don't even remember that I'm an artist. A veces I'm at Food for Less or the people watching at Del Taco, and I go, I better do something because I haven't done a drawing in it.
I see what you mean, yeah.
You know, so it's not a practice. It's just a thing that I do once in a while.
Yeah. It's not like you have a 9 to 5 and you have like a quota.
Yes, right. You have to clock in and clock out.
It's just when it comes to you.
And I think that's a sign I'm not disciplined enough, or algo así. Imagine if I was
not everybody has that same kind of. Some people can
some kind of drive.
I mean, there's those artists that have that, like, I wake up at 5 and I paint for 2 hours and then I go hike. You know,
that kind of thing,
which is amazing to me.
Yes,
I wish I could
have that discipline.
I can't do that. I work mostly at night. Like when I'm at home, like late at night, just on the computer. That's when my working bug comes out. Whether it's writing or editing or putting things together.
And that's a big part of having a career, a successful career. Yeah. Is looking at it as work.
Yeah.
Work.
I mean, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll get into that a little bit right now.
Okay.
Let's go back a little bit into like you drawing and in high school and what finally, like, when was that moment that you were like, this is something I can do?
Well, junior high.
Did you ever have that moment?
The teachers encouraged you. And I wasn't good at anything else. I was, lousy in PE. I couldn't do wood shop. I struggled with typing.
I remember typing as a class. Typing as a class was fun.
C+, C-, but I'd get A's in art.
Okay.
And then maybe in English I get.
So
but when someone
easy.
gave you a little pat on the back and say you're the star of the classroom, was it comes so effortlessly that you start saying, well, that's what I was born to do. And then in high school, Mrs. Randall, and then she had me apply to Art Center at 18.
Wow,
that's a little young, And we did a portfolio, and then when you're that age, it's art. You're like a monk, like an art monk. Every book you're watching, you're devouring every book, and you're analyzing what a painting is doing. So you get very savvy visually. And I wanted to be a advertising illustration major at Art Center because I did get accepted at 18.
Wow.
Pero yo estaba bien tapado. I was real tapado. I was in Orange County.
What was the culture clash from like being in like little Tokertown?
Little
Tokertown to
coming
Art
to
Center.
Pasadena. I have my little Mustang, my little 67 Mustang.
Oh, beautiful.
But the seat didn't work. It was broken. So I put like a tub to hold it up.
Funny.
That was my car. And I drive every day and I was so tapado that no one told me that I could take the 5 to the Pasadena and get to Art Center. No, I went all the way around Irwindale.
The 210,
todo alrededor. Every day. And then the classes were they demanded so much of you. And then they were like.
What year was this Art Center?
Oh, that was the Bee Gees were like on the radio. 78.
78.
I was 18, 19.
Okay.
And it's a big school, a lot of kids from many nations. And the teachers, some of them were very kind of mean and a little
elitist,
a little intimidating,
People with money. I mean, that's everybody.
And what would comfort me on the drive was listening to Lucha Villa tapes.
Oh yeah,
that centered me somehow.
Llorando.
I was like, listen to Lucha Villa. I have an 8-track tape because they didn't have CDs then. But then you get back and you met some real nice people. But it's all very competitive that you had to. And I would do advertising illustration projects, and then I did live drawing. And that guy, famous Harry Carmian, he was like one of their best teachers. He thought I was all that because it came naturally, the composition, and to draw like the old masters. That was an ECA. But then in some classes with a craft, the pinchy craft, where you had to like do a box with like, and she'd say, some lady named Judy Crook with a lozenge in her cheek. always. Pinche señora. I didn't like
A lozenge.
She had a lozenge always in her
Always.
tooth. I don't know if it was a breath mint, but she had like cachete, like todo inflado. So she said, I wanted to have 2 DRAs and then have 6 DRAs the other way.
Wait, what?
I don't know what the hell DRAs are to this day.
Really?
I don't know if she meant
Directional
angles,
radial angles?
and then she wanted you to make them out of illustration board, gesso them, and then sand them so they look like plaster.
Oh.
And some of these projects managed to do that. Yeah. I would show mine. It was todo like collapsing and full of smudges on it. So I became like the town's class's fool. And I said, I ain't going back to that pinchy class. I don't know, give me an F. I ain't going back to that humiliation. Yeah. So my experiences there were like, it was nice because it was like you were like in a movie. Yeah. The beautiful where you ate, and then the bookstore. Yeah, the buildings. Everything looked like everybody looked like European or something. So you felt cool like that. Yeah. I'm at Art Center, but then the reality of it was very competitive. I was real tapado. Yeah. If I had been 23, 21, I think that's the medium age there. And it's like a factory of art. They groom their artists to do a job when they're done. And they come out with similar skills. And like I said, I think Art Center had a look, a very kind of slick, kind of crafty, beautifully done, you know. And to this day, I still haven't mastered that craft, you know. I just
they still have that same kind of.
I think I mastered the craft on my own terms.
Okay,
you know. I think there could be charm to Rascuache. I think there could be charm to.
Yes,
there could be a charm and a professionalism to something that comes like, you know, as a guttural expression. And I know how to mix my paint, and I know how to, but I'm still working on my.
Do you think that Rascuache thing is something from the 70s? Because I have such a love for it too. Like, just because of like those years when we would play in empty lots and like grab stuff and put things together, and we have more of a sensory thing. Yeah. I don't know. It's different with the kids.
Yeah, I think Art Center kind of squeezed out the individual imagination. So everything everything all the projects that were done as if and someone took a vote and everybody agreed to make it that way. So and they have a painting department.
You can usually tell that person went to Art Center, and that's interesting that doesn't come through for you. Like, you know, you have your own distinct.
Yeah, I have my own way of
thought it.
I say cut to the chase. You got to cut to the chase. No hagas tanto pedo. Yeah. And then sometimes you do stuff that you can't explain why that was done. Yeah. And that's the magic of making art, that you never really know what's going to be expressed. That's
it's because you're more like guttural when you work. When you work.
And then I dropped that advertising illustration. Yeah. You know, I was thinking of making a career. Yeah. And then I loved all the advertising imagery, like Milton Glaser, that designer that's real famous. He did that Dylan poster. Okay. He was very, very influential, forming the look of fine advertising. You know, it's the imagery. So I would look at his stuff a lot. So I say, so it kind of formed me. All that stuff that I was like, it's the sponging off. All that stuff comes through my Rascuache. It looks Rascuache, but there's a sophistication underneath it. Okay. I'm just kind of playing dumb. You know, kind of playing.
But I like that. Somebody told me once, tú te haces menso nomás para pasártela bien, you know?
Yes.
And yeah,
so there's a sophistication.
Dumb it down a little bit just for your
I do it como que no sé. Some other forms are not supposed to be, but I don't like perfection. I admire something that's done flawlessly,
Yeah.
without a hair out of place.
Yeah, it's insane.
know? Yeah.
I've had the same discussion with somebody else here before, where I also like, if something is perfect for me, it feels weird. Like when I would buy new shoes, I always had to scuff them a little bit, kind of, you know. But then I also, when I do see somebody else that like has a beautiful photograph that is just like within the square, everything is so clean, everything is right at the right spot, and you're like, how do you even get there? Maybe I fight it because I can't get that perfect, so I'll just go the other way, or I don't know what it is.
No, I tried that. I had a class at Art Center called Hands, Faces, and Hands, and you got one model for 8 hours. You take a break for lunch.
8 hours.
Yeah, 7 hours, maybe the whole day was one model they lit. And you had to like make that pimple pop.
Wow.
You had to like make the eyelashes. And then you had to use your tools, your chamois, and then this little squid thing with sandpaper.
Yeah, to sharpen
I
it.
was done in half an hour.
Really?
I see the teacher coming, I looked all like I was working on it still. And then he'd walk away and I go, oh shit, I'm done. I just wait around. And then I fuss with it. But that's how much time you had to put in this drawing.
Wow.
I just didn't. And then some students managed to do that. They made that pimple pop. And they made that shine in the nose. Do what it needs to do. You find the nose. But yeah, that's one of my regrets still at my age, that I never. But I draw like an old master. When I was at Cal State Fullerton, I was figure drawing.
Well, before we get to Fullerton, let's go back a little bit. I just want to ask you, what do you think is your biggest takeaway? That at this time in your life, like, what do you think was your biggest takeaway from Art Center?
I never got to meet many people, because it was like your college year. You're supposed to meet people and party and I cook like crazy. And I would just get in my car and come back. I remember sharing some rice and a burrito with a Korean friend in a parking lot. I think that was like the most connection I ever got from there, because everybody was on a professional level. Everybody had to act because they're an art center. But I did love the idea of such a fancy, efficient place to train artists, the right way, almost like in a mechanical way, because you were there to do, and in the catalogs, that's what seduced me. In the old art center on 3rd Street, and everybody looks so, and they're like looking at sketches of cars, because some of them design cars.
Yeah, big car designers.
So you want a piece of that, because it's like so seductive to see other.
I did the tour at 18 just to go look at it, and man, I was also like seduced.
Yeah, the one on Lida Street.
Yeah, up in Pasadena.
Okay, I went to go to the old one.
I never knew that.
I took the bus from Fullerton to take a live drawing class.
Wow.
In Fullerton, you get into LA, it's like walking into Oz. It's another world, another energy.
Especially back then, it's a lot more separated, right? I mean, now everything feels like, if you think of Orange County in LA, it doesn't feel like it's.
No, it's still a vast difference.
Yeah. But even back then, even more. No, if you were like in a tiny town in Fullerton.
Yeah. And I was 16, 17.
Yeah.
And so what a wonderful time to be that age.
Yeah.
I see kids nowadays and I envy them, because you have this sense of wonder and this ideal, and everything's a possibility, and art is going to save the world, and art is bigger than religion, and that is, and then you're striving for something that you're going to clutch onto. And you still don't know. You don't know at the time what it is that but there's an excitement and a love for the visual and the paintings and the drawings, and it's all very magical to grow up in that age, when you're that age and you're like soaking it up. And then a cousin of mine in Juárez, she asked me, ¿para qué se usa? I had a show in Juárez when I was in my 20s. I was frantic about the
What is
phrase.
art for?
Aquí tanto pedo, ¿para qué se usa? the frames weren't ready, and I was getting upset. And my prima Silvia, who has like a torta truck in Juárez and like 6 girls, and she'd say I invited her to them, and then she didn't see the point. People just look at the art and talk, and then drink, stand around, and she didn't see and I couldn't give her an answer.
And now?
I don't have an answer. I did sell a drawing that day for like 1,000 pesos, so I took her for some flautas, and I told her that's what it's for.
That makes plenty of sense.
You get a flauta once in a while.
That makes plenty of sense. It's, pa comer.
But I couldn't give her any lofty explanations.
Yeah.
It's gonna save your soul.
Yeah.
Art wouldn't matter if there was no art.
Yeah.
It wouldn't explain what we're doing in this world.
Yeah.
It wouldn't mirror the beauty that artists find in the world.
Yeah.
That's what art is for. But she had some tortas to make.
Yeah.
I could tell her.
But what a profound thought that snuck into your head that day, and it's still in your head.
It's still here. It's still part of my.
Still ask that question.
Mm-hmm. I still ask that question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those are moments.
I think I have some answers to that. Yeah. But I'm still searching for it. I think you never know.
One of my things in whatever the hell I'm doing is like the search and the discovery is part of the reason why we do these things. Part of the reason why I started this, to like ask questions and to like search and to discover new things and to stay learning. Sepa la bola. No.
Yeah, it's something that, and then art in Mexico is para los ricos.
Yeah.
Tanto pelo, that's not for you. That's a foreign thing that they do over there. Se visten the cuches, they get out cute, and then they put the pearls on and go look at art. Yeah. That is not your world.
Yeah.
So you made, and in reality, you find that very valid. You say, mira, pues sí es cierto.
Yeah.
But and it's not. There's so much beautiful stuff in Mexico. Everywhere you look, in a mug that you pick up in a mercado.
Yeah, everything's...
The way they arrange the fruit, there's art in that,
Even the way they chop the fruit.
Yeah. There's always so many things you can find in Mexico that it comes naturally, but they don't think it's art. But there's art, there's aesthetic to that. Yeah. And I think my mother had an aesthetic to things when she arranged something and she placed things. But she had no time to think about art because the girl had to make a paycheck and even pay the rent. My mother,
that's another thing that some people don't see how they are artists, because like also some people like arrange their house in a certain way that I'm like, just the way that you organize your house, your chair and your table and your lamp, like you're composing something. Just look at the way this moves, and
there's art in that too.
No, there's like you're an artist in this way. That's like when I'm looking at a photo, like I move things around. You're moving these things around.
It's composition.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
But people, I guess they're metiche enough to like notice these things, and some people don't have that time to actually find value in it.
Got it.
¿Verdad? También.
Yeah.
Imagine all of us, everybody being an artist. Oh my God, what a day! It'd be so exhausting. Everybody like pointing to you what to see, and I couldn't see
That's a lot of shows to go to. You're already
that's too many
there's
artists.
a lot of shows already.
Yeah, I know. There's enough artists already, and some in the art schools coming up.
Yeah.
También.
So let's talk about now how you went from Fullerton from Art Center to Fullerton
College,
right?
Yes, and I went.
Is it a UC or is it Cal State?
It was the JC.
Oh, JC, okay.
Yeah. And they just asked me to go do a mural for them because I'm a famous alumni. Whatever. So they asked me to do a mural for them. They had me do a presentation like last year. This real nice girl, and it was like live drawing. Mr. Egan, he very quiet teacher, and then I could tell that it pleased him when I did a good painting. And then when I did something wrong, he just like put an X, and then he put a little mark when it was a good drawing, my live drawings. And then he let me just do experimental drawings, self-portraits, compositional things, just starting to learn how to move the paint around. And then from there I went to Cal State Fullerton.
Okay.
I transferred to get my my BA because I got an AA. And a lot of anonymous big hall lecture classes, and then the art department was there también. And I was live drawing, and I was taking painting classes, and in the crits, I was doing abstract expressionism, this slapping paint. I was even incorporating aluminum foil with little deer in them. And the teachers were just like, not. They would just say, okay, let's go on to this other person. I just thought, you know what? I don't have it. I would just feel so I was getting C's. And then there was like the little art students that got all the attention from the
teachers.
They giggled a lot. Yeah. You always hear sulky, when you're in the class to end. So they would have the giggly popular group because they were doing the right thing.
The happy group, yeah.
The happy little group over there. So I said,
let me try to get in a little bit more into the reason why you were doing the aluminum, or what is aluminum?
Aluminum
deer,
little deer.
So was it
with slashes? I thought that's what art was supposed to be.
But was it you searching to be different? Was it you searching to be like, wait, I have a better idea than what everybody else is doing? Is it something like that drives that?
I think so. I thought I was following in our tradition.
Yeah.
Pollock and de Kooning. I wanted to add to that dialogue, and I think the dialogue shut down like 40 years ago. Everybody started that shit. So. And I was following a tradition. I thought that's what painting was supposed to be. And I was like so discouraged. And then one time I had a teacher named Pierre Picot, very famous artist he recently passed. Very flamboyant, very French personality, and he like wore jeans. He liked jeans really well, and had like cool shoes. And out of desperation, I did a little drawing out of my head of a neighbor of mine when I first arrived in Fullerton. Her name was Queenie, African American neighbor. She cussed like in such a tasty manner when she cussed. Which is kind of like musical, when she cussed out her husband, Dennis.
Oh, my God.
And she let us play on her roof. She let us climb a tree and play on her roof. So I did a drawing remembering that. So I put that up, and then Pierre Picot said, who did this? And then he said, well, cut that crap, that deer shit you're doing, and do more of this. Okay? Pues qué fácil. The next crit I had...
That comes more naturally.
Yeah, I had parties, like Tupperware parties of my aunts and the neighbors, and I did a story about some kind of immoral character who went to some of my Janelle's parties. And I started like focusing on human flawed characters. Yeah. I wanted to know the extreme of human. Yeah. The real kind, is the generous, and then the extreme of that, which is like cruel and immoral, and that can be explained. And I think in my term paper I brought up the Brothers Karamazov, the Dostoevsky novel, which has a lot to do with like good and evil in that. So I was observing at the parties that I'd go to with Janelle, and then. So that all that came into play, and then I said, you know what? I want to draw like a child. I want to have no preconceived notions of what a leg looks like, or what I'm just going to do it like a kid. It's saying something very compelling to himself, not for an audience, just for myself, to try to explain myself. So I think that came through in the drawings. I do these scenes, and they were not very flattering.
Yeah.
They were not very flattering. And this African-American student, very serious, I forget his name. He wrote me in a yellow pad sheet. He wrote, how how dare you do this to your people?
Oh my God.
You said you make them all they're closed in together, and then you don't make them very flatter. You don't flatter them. You don't like uplift them.
Yeah.
And that kind of it concerned me. It kind of like disturbed me. That I go, damn, that guy makes a lot of sense. But then I figured I'd be censoring myself.
Yeah.
If I didn't express how I was feeling. And then I was looking at the German guys, George Grosz and Otto Dix, and I love everything how they express in a very kind of
the perfect chins and
in
all
a very
that,
cruel kind of way. But then they kind of hit the nail on the truth about human the human psyche, and it's there for you to see. You don't even have to, you don't have to. It's there, and it's there showing you that the human dimension of cruelty and I don't know what I was trying to get at that, but that was me at that time.
Yeah, I had a similar experience once when I did a talk at the Skirball for the docents. And I was supposed to talk to them about street photography. So after an hour and a half presentation where I showed my photography, all the black and whites and all the like street stuff around here, one of the women asked, like, why do you photograph all of these ugly things? And I didn't even think about it at the moment. She was like, other photographers do skylines and sceneries with flowers and stuff.
Yes.
And she says, why don't you, shoot things like that? And, and immediately I just answered, like, those things I'm not drawn to them. Like, I'm not drawn to shoot a pretty sunset. I was drawn to, like, the darker side of things and doing things that were a little, like, more, I used to use the words tinged with sadness, just a little bit of sadness in there that just, like, gives it some reality. And I didn't realize till after that she was kind of just insulting me, Like, I was like, wait a minute, that woman was saying that all the things in my neighborhood and my people, like, are ugly, And I was like, well, I don't know. I just look at different things in the same way, like we're.
And I think an art historian wrote when I had my MFA show, I had a little book for comments, and her name was Ruth Capel. She was an art history teacher, and she says el trabajo es muy bonito, es muy lindo, and muy very strong, but she said, pero falta la alegría, and that phrase kind of.
But you do have alegría in your paintings, your drawings. Yes.
Falta la alegría. Even la piñata is sad, and the little girl who's hitting it is like she's about to cry. I go, why? That's kind of true. Maybe it's. Maybe I'm a Debbie Downer.
I think there's joy in your drawings. Even
is there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so, because they're like party scenes, they're family scenes. People are having a good time, even though their caras, whatever their cara, la cara mala que ponen. But
you don't know what's underneath.
Especially when you use color, there's so much like happiness in your work.
Yeah, and I hope they're not stereotypes tampoco. I worry about that. I mean, that they're stereotypes.
Yeah. I mean, I same here. Like, when I shoot some stuff, I'm like, I don't want to even expose that. I'll just save it in my own archive and never show it, because some things are very, you just don't want to go there for certain reasons or whatever. But no, I think I found my voice there. Yeah.
And I think it was a Chicano voice too. Because I can't draw.
What year was this now at?
I was 87. I got my MFA. And I think I owe it to Pierre Picot. That he said, cut that crap, because you're not de Kooning. You don't have that on your experience. You can like, it's the, I mean, you can connect to the aesthetic of Pollock and de Kooning, but they said that already. They said that. You can use some of their aesthetic feel to your stuff, but you can. I think that discussion is dead. I think what they did, but there's a lot of abstract painters that still explore abstractness, for abstract purposes, and they create beautiful paintings también. So it's not a dead aesthetic tampoco. I'm not sure. But then I said, and then people started saying, hey, Jay, you got it going on, you're good. So then I go, pues ahora, aquí me quedo.
Yeah.
This is my shtick. I finally found my shtick.
Once you do something that sticks, that does like continue to push you. That
Yeah,
does,
and it's not the same thing all the time. You're always trying on different things, but you know you're speaking from a place that you know. You know, it doesn't seem that I'm not just faking.
That's the part that's important, is to be genuine from there, from where it's coming from.
And then to be able to voice it, I couldn't make a drawing about an Anglo person.
Yeah.
And then comment. Maybe I could, if I knew them well enough, or if I was maybe angry enough at what I was finding out about them.
Yeah.
And then I guess all this time I was trying to figure out what a Mexicano is, or what a Chicano is. That was a big question in my mind. How do I sum you people up? And I still haven't been able to.
And you were about 25 at this time. And that's the age. Like a lot of artists come here and talk about that change that they had when they finally like realized what it is to be Chicano and around that age. And
and I can't.
It gives you some kind of identity or something to stand on, like a platform.
I can flatter and I can pay homage and I can applaud, because there's so much beauty in when you go to a party, when you go to quinceañera, when you go to watch people dance in Olvera Street, when you see a party here at the mariachi and I'm a big I'm looking everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, what the way an arm or the way a leg is sitting, the way a face.
Yeah.
And I don't use cameras.
Yeah.
But so that became my Chicano tag. And then I read about self-help in a magazine that came out with Cheech on the cover. And then there was a picture of Margaret and J. Michael Walker behind the Virgin. You know, I didn't know any of these people then. I was in Orange County todavía, you know. And I thought, that's a place to go if you want to if you want to get a break, if you want to learn something as a young Chicano artist. That's the place, because they welcome you with open arms. And there was no other place out there that you read about that did that at the time. You know, you had to figure it out yourself. And most artists do. But I go, what an exciting place to go right now that there's so much stuff going on there, the energy. So I made my way, and I introduced myself to Sister Karen. And then she saw my portfolio, and she said, we're gonna schedule you for a print, okay?
Beautiful.
So I was so excited, and I got to meet Joe, the master printer, and then this...
Shout out to Joe Alpuche.
Oh, yeah, Joe Alpuche.
The master.
And Gloria Westcott, she was very helpful, and Sister Karen, and my first print was a complete disaster.
Oh, no.
The Big Luchador. Yeah, it was a disaster. Because they saw my sketch, everybody went, ooh, wow, que nice, it was going to be nice. And then Sister Karen wanted you to go to meetings. She demanded that you go to meetings. And I said, oh, my site is so badass, I don't have to go. So I didn't go. I show up for the printing with Oscar, and then he says, where's your separations? I go, what's the separation?
Oh, my God.
Imagine.
Yeah.
And he called up Sister Karen, and he says, Jose doesn't know what a separation is. Well, he stopped coming to the meetings. That was part of the deal with this atelier program.
Yeah.
So then I think he threw that separation set and lit up the box. And he said, you better what am I supposed to do? Black out each color you want, certain color. And I couldn't wait to get out of there. It was his last print, I think. He was about to go somewhere else and leave. So we made that print a trancazo. Yeah. You know, what kind of green do you want? Oh, an avocado green. That green. Just give me that.
Oscar Eduardo?
Oscar Eduardo.
Yeah.
I couldn't wait. I took the train. I didn't have a car. I didn't have a car at the time. I took the train. And then if we finished, and then Sister Karen came down, and she nodded, and she says, Jose, look at all these bugs. I guess where the color didn't close.
Yeah.
And she said, we had such faith in you. Ooh, double stab. Like double stab. I think I cried at Union Station when I took the.
Oh, man.
So then I got my edition. I signed it, and I tore it.
Oh, wow. Your share.
My share, and I used it back to do more work. And then I gave it to my cousin Menyo, and he put one up with like big old nails.
Yeah.
And then they ended up using it for a catalog. People would ask me, "Do you have any more of those luchadores?" I mean, no, ya no hay. They're all cut up. But then I learned
Lessons, yeah.
The next print I did, I was with Joe.
Yeah.
Then I did like 6, 7 prints after that, and they're all very popular, the prints. So and then you got to meet people, you got to have shows, you form like a connection, and that gives you, it gives what you do more importance.
Self-help has taught a lot of people how to be artists, working artists.
Yes.
Right? I mean,
yes.
And I'm not just saying that because they helped me, but because a lot of people have sat in that chair and told me almost exactly what you have, like, of that experience. So I'm very grateful to them.
Yes, of course.
And how did you start showing other places? And, you know, I know
exhibiting.
You're now in like different collections. You now have big solo shows across.
Just it's like part talent and then part dumb luck. But you do have to get out there and meet people. You can't. You're not going to come to you. You have to have a little agenda going.
Yeah.
In order for things to happen.
I imagine that you might have a little bit of because I do this. I don't want to go anywhere. Even though people think like I'm super social, like sometimes I don't want to go anywhere.
Yep.
And then I force myself to go to an event, and then I go to that event and I make like 3 or 4 connections that I'm really glad that I made.
You have to.
Because you just show up.
Out there.
You have to show up,
Yeah, and then you meet other artists and they put you in shows, they recommend you. Margaret Garcia has always been very supportive of me. And then Frank Romero, I met at an auction for Carecen, just out of Cal State Fullerton. And he said, "Come to my house. I want to buy one of your wrestlers," because I got outbid.
Nice.
So I went to his house, his big Victorian house.
Yeah.
And then there was a New York dealer there, Carla Stalweg. She bought some more, and then she put me in a show in New York. So see how those things are kind of like related?
Yeah.
And then my friend Kim Abeles, who was my mentor, my teacher at Cal State Fullerton, I would give her little gifts as drawings. And then a gallery owner was visiting her studio, and then she said, "Who is this guy?" And he said, "Well, I want to meet him, bring him send him to my gallery on Lincoln." I never been to
Santa Monica.
I never been to Santa Monica. I was like 28. Talk about whatever that word is. So she started showing me, and it got a little frightening. I got a little spooked because she wanted work. It must work. It must work. It must work. And they wanted to make me into like this pop Daddy Roth or Robert Williams kind of a person, that you kind of pop guy. And I couldn't deliver that to them.
So I've seen that, or I have seen that, where like an artist gets they get representation, and then they become part of like a mill. It's like more work.
And I would give them work, and then I would see, and I go, "Qué vergüenza that I sent this out." And it's actually hung on a wall.
So it's dangerous.
I go, because I do it in a hurry.
What do you think about? I mean, because for some people that works, right?
Some people have it in them.
Yeah.
To make a product.
Yeah.
To make a product and to do it fast.
Consistently and as quality every time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think
follow your
artists develop. I don't want to say shtick, but they develop their aesthetic. Like someone like Alex Katz, who's been making the same painting of his wife for the past 40 years.
Wow.
But every image is always very interesting. It always has conviction to it. It doesn't seem like it was slapped on. Yeah. Because there's Alex Katz doing his wife again. Wow. And it's still very poignant. I forget what I should know her name by now, because that's what the paintings are called. But he does that every time, and you can tell it's an Alex Katz. But what a luxury, huh? What a luxury.
I mean, it's a blessing too to be like behind on work. It's like I have so many orders that I haven't even put out, enough.
Exactly.
I mean, that's
only
a luxury for certain
that's a
artists.
movie version of a successful artist.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's very disciplined.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's very disciplined, and I'm sure he does a lot of work ahead of time that he has some already done, so he can take his leisurely time and give the painting the time that the painting the time that it deserves.
Yeah.
A painting has to be babied for a while.
I loved when I learned the word resolved. When a painting is resolved.
Oh yeah, that's a
like you work and you work and you work.
That's the best
When
feeling.
I learned that word, I was like, oh, that's a beautiful way to put it. Yeah.
But we're not making pies.
No.
For that sake. No. We're not cooking a turkey.
It's only up to the artist to know when it's
Yeah.
resolved. Like you're the one that decides.
That
right?
knows.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's only one perfect painting that I've made that I know of that I can say that's the one. Yeah, because I know some artists.
Painting.
I know some artists that call them their pieces masterpieces.
Yeah.
After, once they're done. And then I told them once that we're not making pies here. For God's sake, we're not Polly's pies. We're making paintings.
Yeah.
Each painting is different, you know. But when a painting hits on the right notes, and then there's not a hair out of place, even though it's not done, in a craft savvy way, when it's the put the way that we're supposed to, and you say, well, that's a good painting, and then you feel very elated after a while.
When you can't see a place to set the brush down anymore.
It's a hunch. It's a visual hunch. I think it's compositional, and then also the content, emotional content in it. And I use humor. I use humor to take the edge off. Yeah. I'm not making a what do you call it? A painting that's going to teach you anything. It's not just.
I learned.
No, maybe I am.
You are, yeah.
Maybe I am teaching you something.
I think so.
When you see these paintings.
Yeah.
But it's non-committal. It's like, I don't mean that. But you strive to make the world a little better through the paintings, I hope, and share them with gente that recognizes themselves in it, and say, well, that looks like my aunt, that looks like my, and I remember that. And they connect to it in their own way. You don't tell them. It's not a didactic way.
Yeah, even if they're dark, even if they're pulling like in a certain way, there's always like a upliftment.
Yeah.
On the other end, like there has to be the balance, right, for it to like work. Because your work does uplift as well. I mean, just thinking of like your piece of La Marisol, it's just like it's
that
beautiful.
one. Yeah.
It's happy. It's and it's uplifting and it teaches you about the culture and it teaches you about a Chicana. It teaches you some history.
But I didn't like ponder on it too much. I didn't overthink it
because it's already in you.
But it's like it's a big deal. It's a big project.
Yeah.
And I just went at it. It's a job you got to do. Okay, you're going to do this, and you have a hunch what's going to go here, and then you're going to include that. And when I presented my art, I won't say which person it was. She said, I don't find your images aspirational. She says, I see them in the backyard. They're probably having a beer and a barbecue. The color's beautiful. It's amazing. But for this project, I don't think these people can represent anything that's aspirational.
What?
Like, what? Que la chingada.
And
I said, well, you know what? Wow. I will name her. I don't do pretty.
Yeah.
I don't do pretty.
I love that.
And I said, but I would rather see a Latino kid walking by there and sees a big brown face that looks like his uncle and say, hey, that looks like my uncle. That's aspirational.
Yeah.
That's aspirational because I don't do the fashion art. I don't do commercial art. And then I put La Marisol, who she loved, and then that kind of changed her whole way of looking at the image. Yeah.
Interesting. Wow. Does some of your drawing and stuff like that come from like the drawing illustrators of like the 70s, like.
Yeah, they say that there's like Crumb.
Yeah.
And I like Crumb, his work. The documentary.
But at that time, there was a lot more than just Crumb, wasn't there?
Oh, in Man Magazine.
Yeah, Man Magazine and all that. There was a ton.
All those movie spoofs.
Yeah.
I used to love how they used to draw their version of a movie. And Posada.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I see that a lot.
And all the graphic is the German, the line people. Because I do line really well.
Yeah.
And I just learned how to paint maybe like 10, 12 years ago. I couldn't get it. It just seemed very like I was very like I was borrowing from somebody. It didn't seem genuine. So and then también real pendejo. My paint would dry, my acrylics, and I go, God damn it, these goddamn acrylics are always. You know what solved it? A spritz bottle. Chris, I walked around. What can I keep the paintings from drying? Psst, psst, psst. And that solved the problem. Oh, okay. It kept the paintings dry. And then I went about it as a drawing. Okay, I'm not painting, I'm drawing. So dry like you're drawing, and then this thing that starts to become a painting because I'm using paint, but I'm using a drawing approach as I'm putting the paint.
Yeah.
And I think somebody called them painted drawings. That's what they are. But that was my way of figuring out how to be a painter, because I have this silly notion that one, as an artist, has to become a painter's painter. That's you get your brownie button for that. You get your badge. You get your patch.
Painters love me.
Yeah. And I'm nothing against other mediums, of course.
Of course.
I love. But for me to be a painter's painter, like Alice Neel or like Van Gogh and all those in Lautrec, that's a sign that you become a, what do you call it? You get you become a priest. So
sainthood or something.
You pass the bar. You pass the bar. You know. And that's for me. And I'm becoming a painter, a better painter. There's still a lot of doubt when I started painting, and then I think people tell me I have to go larger because my work tends to be very small. And I just have to start with something.
To go back to the way earlier in the beginning when you talked about the things that you would see in the shadows at night. I've had this image since you said that of all your drawings that have like faces coming out of places. Does that still like inform that in some kind of way?
Yeah, maybe.
Because even in like, I mean, for example, the chalupa loteria, it's the woman on the chalupa in there, but
shadowy.
In the water, in the trees,
they're coming
you
through.
have people.
Oh, I never noticed that.
In there,
yeah. Well, I did those faces to prove myself that all Mexicans aren't alike. I said, God damn it, I hate that phrase. When someone says that all Mexicans are alike, I want to prove it to you. Look, here's one little face. Now look at this other one. Do they look alike? No. Yeah. That's my point. So then it became this interesting kind of this visual premise or device to make those faces say something profound. Say something profound and something more than just being caritas, just a decorative.
You're not just filling space. I'm
a political artist too. That's my political, and I got away with it with my metro station. That the faces are underneath, and it's a way of saying for once in your life, look at yourself through a brown person.
Wow.
Because I've been doing the opposite all my life. All my role models growing up were Gabacho people, Gabacho actors. I wanted to be Dustin Hoffman. I wanted to be Nick Nolte. I wanted to be all those guys. And then you imitate, their movements and the way they're. That's what the culture's for. It kind of gives you messages on how how an American is supposed to be or act. Those are your role models growing up. And they were not Latino. Well, they were like soap operas and television. But in this culture, you had to become Americanized. Yeah. You had to, by a certain age, fit, for God's sake, at last.
Yeah. Assimilation was big.
And then I think going through Art Center, I'm going to say, this is a ticket here. Yeah. Just watch me. I want to go from here, from there, and before you know it,
I'm going to be.
You're going to call me Joe. You won't call me. I won't be Jose anymore, and I'm going to I'm going to just assimilate.
Yeah.
Because it's like a natural occurrence in this country. Are you kidding?
Yeah, you're following the steps. It has to happen.
No.
Was the thought.
I was listening to Lucha Villa on the way. Some keep telling me, don't go. Wow. Don't go. And I think it also comes from my childhood years in Juárez. The music and then reading in Spanish and becoming a little Mexicano when I was at that age. And the language and todo eso is still...
You still romanticize it somehow.
I romanticize it. Yeah, todavía. Yeah. And I love todavía Mexican movies when I see them, when I come across them.
I mean, because we grew up in the golden era of that, the Mario Almadas and the Almada brothers and all
and everything's visual. The movies, I mean, were a big part of what I do. I mean, and then certain movies like movie makers like Robert Altman, who has his characters come in and out, and they say little things to themselves, and they kind of give you so much about what their character is, those little details that inform so much
of what that person
does or is, and that really kind of is that's what kind of impressed me, and I know I was going to get something juicy from one of his characters. They're going to divulge something to you. And then, because when you're like that age, you want to know what adults are like.
That made me picture one of your drawings where it's two men fighting, and it's called La Bronca.
Oh, that's my loteria.
And then it says, one guy just says, Te mato. Like, so simple. La Bronca, Te mato.
That's my loteria.
And it says so much in that little tiny drawing.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. That's what a little detail can give you so much and then sum up a big message.
Yeah.
Like the novel The Great Gatsby. It's all about the rich, and then there's a cruelty to poor Gatsby, luego lo matan, al último. And the last scene in the novel, where the father shows up, and then he has a note that Gatsby had written, like 20 things that for success. And it was written in such an innocent, it's the
tone.
Yeah, that kind of sums up the whole novel. That sums up the whole novel. Yeah. So something like that, they don't think it's not. It shouldn't become like a gimmick. But I think our art has that, when a little piece of something can give you like so much.
Yeah.
And that's how you make. That's one of my favorite painting. That's called The Night of the Maniac. It's just a bar scene. And I finished it.
By you?
Yeah.
The Night of the Maniac.
The Night of the Maniac. My friend George Orozco owns it. I finished it, beautiful color. There's a pretty girl with like little sandals, little dainty sandals. That's a detail, the dainty sandals. Yeah. You kind of go, what is that girl wearing those dainty sandals? And you wonder where she get them, at Payless, or where someone gave them to her. So you start making little stories. It was all real charming. I go, what does it mean, though? What does it mean? And it's just people just having a party. So then I added little angels floating. Because I used little adult angels floating. And then they're explaining something like a mist. And then I go, okay, now what does that mean? What the fuck does that mean now? Now it's an illustration.
So these things were just happening, but you hadn't put a name to them yet.
No, now it's an illustration. So then I saw this guy facing the corner, and I said, I wonder what this guy's thinking about. So I drew a bubble. I never use a gimmick of a bubble. So I have him saying, in Spanish, in English, I don't know about this place that smells of angels. And it makes me want to fuck somebody, or strangle them.
That's perfect.
I kind of go, okay, now we have a painting. Yeah. It's called The Night of the Maniac.
Wow, I like that.
and everything just kind of, not a thing out of place. And it's disturbing because this guy who just looks like a harmless guy just sitting there is having these evil thoughts, and maybe the angels are driving him to it. So it kind of creates that's like a real kind of surreal
narrative. Wow.
Yeah, so something like that, and that's what good plays do. Yeah. They're not out to teach you something, but I think that the writer comes across something as he's writing it that just gives him that little, that's something I love, and he makes it all the more poignant, Yeah,
if that right word at the right time that closes the circle of whatever the story is.
Right. And it's unexplainable.
To let you walk out of there going, okay, instead of.
And it's best not to know. It's best not to know. I think one of my favorite quotes, I think, is by Hans Hofmann. He said that some of the best paintings are the ones that are left unexplained. You better just leave it alone.
Yeah.
You don't want to write a dissertation on it. Just let it be and enjoy it, for God's sake. And if you want to, make a list, keep it to yourself. I don't want to hear it, because that's your interpretation of it, not mine.
There's some directors that don't do interviews, don't do anything. I really appreciate that too, because once they do talk about it, they take away what you thought.
Oh, eso también.
Because you have your own interpretation of things, and you watch it, and you probably create an entire idea of it. And then when they go, well, the guy just happened to be walking, so I shot it. What do you mean? It doesn't mean.
No, what's the magic?
It doesn't have the magic that. So it's good to know. Yeah, it is good.
And I think that's a big word. Gloria uses that in her poetry. Yeah. The duende that comes and then drops whatever that is into the mix. And that's how I think art should be. That's how I make art. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes I resolve it because I'm kind of lazy that day. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah, I'm done. Mm-hmm. But then some other pieces you kind of and you resort to your gimmicks. You resort to your sticks. I have a stick. You can drop a curtain and resolve it real quick.
I used to say, or before I learned the word resolve or that thought, I used to just say that, I would edit my image until it had a certain weight. And once it landed with that weight, I could feel it. Okay. And I would be that one's done. I could move aside and get it printed.
Yeah. For God's sake, keep it enjoyable.
Yeah, it's work. You have to love it.
But you have to still love it and be in it and be involved in it. And give it all that you know, all your know-how that you know, all your shortcuts and all your... And then I would see what happens. See what happens, and then a series might come out of it. Yeah. And then because I've done my work in series. I've done clowns, and I've done luchadores. Yeah. And then I've done parties, and then I've done, and I've even done a children's book.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, children's book,
which kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to claim writer. Yeah. Because I think it's not fair. Yeah. I think God only gives you one talent. I think. And good-looking people should not be artists, because you got that going for you. So use that.
Go be an actor.
Leave the painting and the art for us. Yeah. But there are a lot of attractive artists out there. Of course. Yeah. But I say that art, still writing is a little harder. I think, like being a poet, that's the hardest thing to do. So, but I'm working at accepting that I can be a writer too. Yeah. También.
Well, you're a creative. Underneath it all,
and
it comes out in different ways.
The stories.
You tell stories in your paintings. So, I want to. We're going to start going down, and before we get to the end, I do want to just bring up longevity, because you've been doing this for such a long time, and it's impressive because, even the tiny career that I've had, it's hard. The road is tough, and you trudge, and people see you, and people are like, oh, congratulations on everything you're doing. But you're taking these tiny steps just to move forward through the everyday life. And what is something that you could say about longevity, or what are your thoughts on how to stay working?
I don't know. Maybe somebody rich.
Yeah. And we know
You
some
could be an
people that
artist
have-
24 hours a day and not worry about it.
Oh man, that would be
No,
nice.
it's always a struggle. There's a lot of doubt. Always you're doubting me. And always you're saying, where am I? It's like a steeplechase. You know, there's people look over there and I'm already here. And then we all have the Sally Field complex, you know, to be liked. I want to be liked. You like me. And that's, and I have that. I know that people like my work, you know, and that people get it, and people appreciate it, and they recognize you for it. But longevity is just hoping in the next 10 years you do your best work todavía. And it doesn't seem that long a career. You know, it doesn't seem like I've been at this for too long, but it has been a very long time. And I go, yeah, I did that. And that was like, 20 years ago. And I did this. So it all becomes like a blurred thing. And I don't I do have some semblance of some notion of what I've done. I do have like some resumes and shows that I've done. Because it goes so fast. It goes real fast.
Well, when you're doing the work, none of that is on your mind.
No.
So that
and then you got to strategize. I mean, where are you going to show?
Yeah.
And how are you going to make this project possible? You know.
Yeah.
Like these books that was a nice surprise that somebody published them. And then my loterias that I've done, I want those mass marketed también at one time. You know, what you telling me that a little card has such an impact on you?
Yeah.
See, that's my little gift.
Yeah.
For me as an artist, that someone it gets delight from a little thing you did, and it communicated, and you were delighted by it. You got that a laugh, and you have to. And I think I'd like to keep it. Use the humor también, and not get too heavy-handed about it. But there is seriousness in the images that I do, but then you use the humor to hang back, and I come across as too heavy-handed.
Yeah.
You know.
The colors and the humor are inviting.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, maybe I'm trying to trick you into watching it to see, because it's a visual trick that you're doing. Yeah. It's a visual trick, and then at my age, I know tricks back and forth, backwards. I know how to like make something do something. But then you use I don't know if it's a shtick, because I research a shtick. The things that I've done. Devices. They're visual devices. Yeah. And then my eye has gotten sharper through the years. Yeah. The color, I know how much amount of white to put in a certain color. And I know when something is off compositionally, that's kind of like a hunch, like, you know, and all you could do is just I hope to continue making more art.
Well, we hope that you do too.
Oh, well, thank you. Because I don't know how to change a tire or how to like work a computer. So.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you would like to bring up before we wind this down?
No, I have an online show.
Okay.
With Luis Jacinto, the Ono Dream Gallery. It's like online.
Oh yeah.
And we put 10 images.
I love Luis. Yeah.
Yeah, and then his Ken is putting a show for me together. He's curating it, and it opens August 12th. Okay. At the Avenue 50.
Oh, nice.
So I'm going to have old pieces from when we were talking about to like more recent stuff. So it'd be like a little mini
retrospective.
Survey. A little
mini retrospective.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to say thank you first of all, for taking the time to come here, but secondly, for being so open and so generous with your knowledge.
Thank you.
Because, you gave us so much today.
I hope. Because most of the shit you don't use in the real world.
Well,
most of it, I can give this, but this is why to like a person in the busway or the laundromat, maybe let's talk about because some of this stuff is important as an artist, and it has to be shared with other artists también. Yeah. Because you have the same. You're like on the same path.
Yeah. there's little things that people do tell me. Like when I heard this artist say that in their show, like it really helped me in my situation. So
yeah, I hardly ever talk art. Yeah, because I don't have other art. And I used to teach a live drawing course many years ago, and they put up their drawings, and I start talking about them. Brilliance that came out of my mouth. Because I connected something, and then the kids would soon go, yeah. Because it registered. Yeah. What I was, and it was very clearly, after so many years of looking at art, and this is doing this and doing, and it was such a hit trip. I feel like full of myself. Yeah. I said, that was very brilliant of you what you just observed, because you have to practice it. Yeah. The talking about it. Yeah. And good. From ideas come other ideas. It is added. It makes it for even better ideas. Like you have to word it. Keep fishing. Yes. For ideas. Yeah. It can only help you. Well, we have a question that we ask everybody at the end of each podcast. Okay. It's a very vague question, so you could answer in any way you want, vaguely or specifically. We just ask that you try to answer in one sentence. Okay. So if a being from another planet or another dimension, or if one of those shadows that you saw when you were young came out and realized like everything that you've been through in life and all of the work that you've put together, and they look at your entire catalog and they look at everything that you've learned and the things that you study on your own time, and they just looked at you and they asked, how would you answer if they said, Jose Lozano, how do you do it? How do I do this? And why do I do this? How do you do it? With a little faith and a lot of heart. Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful answer. You got to have some of that. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you, Rafa. We'll see you guys next week.